Okay, so let's continue with the vibes of cosmos information in the second digital book. I mean, this information that comes here is really the closest I see to science and maths and the reality of the world. The polar lights. Let's just read, and don't misunderstand this as the globe. This is the toroidal field, okay? So the Earth is a plane which continues, and then it's the toroidal field, the electromagnetic field that has the shape of the sphere. It's very different. So NASA does say some truths distorted with their own reality. Below the polar lights, below the surface of the Earth, there is the black sun. That is truly fascinating. If that's real, that is truly fascinating. The black sun is responsible for the creation of the sun and the moon, and the polar lights are from the black sun below and come from a big hole that there is on the magnetic north in Hyperborea, which means that this is the thing that lots of conspiracy theorists on the internet misinterpret as the hollow Earth. Yes, there is a hollow thing. It's like a hole in Hyperborea. That doesn't mean that it's a globe with a hollow Earth. No, it just means it's a hole that goes inside something hollow, but still, like, the Earth is still a plane, and the toroidal field is what forms around it. And the black sun is responsible for the creation of the sun and the moon. Let's see some mathematical stuff, because Vibes of Cosmos does a very good job in explaining this, like with basic maths. Black sun motion. Black sun is moving below in a coil motion, creating an electromagnetic field. Again, everything's electromagnetic. The so-called, the wrongly called Tartarian people, which are not Tartarian, the reset of humanity, what we've spoken about on this channel, everything has to do with electromagnetism. So it creates an electromagnetic field with direction from below to above, as above, so below. Awesome stuff. Trimehistos. And its motion center is magnetic north. We've seen the magnetic north before, where the magnetic north is, the motion of the black sun, the north, and the magnetic north, and Hyperborea. So fixed Polaris and stars, axis of moon phases on the XY, and the black sun, and Polaris fixed. So Polaris is fixed and is up from the magnetic north. That's a fact. On the top of the ceiling of our toroidal field, what we call as the dome in like street language, black sun's electromagnetic field creates the stars. This is awesome. So the electromagnetic field from the black sun creates the stars as reflections of the great depths and energy spots of the Earth, and those are reflected on what we call the dome, which is the toroidal field that has that sphere shape. This is awesome. Like, this is really true, it's the closest I've seen so far in the interpretations of where we live. The center of the Earth is not the center of the magnetic field center. We've seen that before as well with the constellation disk, just like the real constellation circle. If you don't understand anything, just pause the video and read the text again and again and again, and you're going to understand a bit probably more. So what he says here is that the diameter of the black sun's motion is changing. So just like the sun that we see on the sky, changing its diameter from Capricorn to Cancer and to the equator, the same goes for the diameter of the black sun underneath us, a fact that makes all the electromagnetic field dynamic. That's why electromagnetism is dynamic in this world, the vortex. So we have the Polaris, which is fixed, and then we have the black sun changing its diameter, toroidal electromagnetic energy from below to above, as above so below. The energy goes up, hits the ceiling, or like what we call the dome, and then we have refraction and reflection all across the electromagnetic field and the vortex and the toroidal field. And that's where things get interesting, because cosmic energy is nothing else but electromagnetism, and Tesla was right, and the people who lived in his time, they just wanted to keep on having this information for the human race. Unfortunately for us, the human race has become what it has become. On our toroidal ceiling, at the place where Polaris happens, so on the toroidal ceiling, when you say toroidal ceiling, we can actually say dome. So on the dome, at the place where Polaris happens, there is a reverse direction, refraction, as above so below, of the cosmic energy, of the electromagnetic energy that comes from the black sun. So this refraction separates, see the separation here, separates the cosmic energy or the electromagnetic energy to energy plus, which is the sun, that creates the sun, and to energy minus, that creates the moon. And we have this here, right? So the refraction of light and electromagnetic energy, light gets reflected and refracted as well, and it comes from the black sun. You see the segments, hits the dome, the ceiling, the toroidal field, refraction, and it creates the sun and the moon, which spin around that's, remember I said like in the initial videos, even before I actually went on the Vibes of Cosmos channel, that we live like in an artificial environment, and everything is like electromagnetism, and everything is like created artificially. We're like just like in a mechanism or something, and we are biological robots because our bodies function with water and electromagnetism. So it's pretty insane for the average person, but if you open your mind and you're an intellectual, then yeah. And below where the refracted energy are focusing. So when you see the schematics, you can actually understand, you know, the cosmic energy or the electromagnetism goes, hits the ceiling, and creates via refraction the plus and the minus, the sun and the moon spinning around, and everything is electromagnetism. Refraction limits. The plus refraction of the cosmic energy works like a limit to the minus refraction when these refractions are so close. You see the black sun, it's quite interesting, right? If there's something underneath here, it means that we are just a mechanism. Somebody created this world with the vortex, with the electromagnetism, and we are just like a toy for like maybe a creator or creators, who knows. So again, because of this, we have the phases of the moon. So because of this refraction, it says here like works as a limit to the minus refraction when these refractions are close, and when these refractions are close, the sun and the moon, that works as the phases of the moon. That's why there is a relation between the constellation difference between the sun and the moon's phases. So again, the same schematic. When the conical shape refraction that creates the sun plus is on the same constellation as the refraction that creates the moon minus, the first one neutralizes the second. In this way, we have the new moon. Makes perfect sense. Because of the dynamic of the refraction, every day there is a different position between these two conical shape refractions, and in this way we have the moon's phases. Man, that's like the best explanation I've seen so far from the moon phases. When these refractions are opposite, there is no neutralization of the moon's conical refraction from the sun's one. So only in this case we have the full moon. Makes sense, yeah. When you don't have this neutralization because of the refractions being so opposite, then you have the full moon. So that's why we see full moon sometimes, and then we see no moon. And as the sun's refraction is getting closer again, we have the rest of the moon's phases till the new moon. Amazing, absolutely amazing. And just with elementary geometry and maths, seeing this, one understands quite perfectly fine how things work. And it makes like logical sense when you see the sky for yourself and the world. Let's continue also a bit with the examples here. You see all the phases of the moon, from it's just the way he did this is very awesome. I mean, this is like the best thing. If this would actually be learned in school and university, it would change everything. So let's take an example with two different places of the black sun. In case A, its motion diameter is small, and in case B is bigger. So case A, small diameter, case B, and then we have yellow and orange. So when the sun is like the small diameter, we have this position of the sun. Polaris is fixed all the time, and you have this position of the moon. And when you have like the big diameter, you have this position of the sun B and moon B, and you see the difference in the phases of the moon. So conical refractions are created. PSA refraction creates sun A, and PMA refraction creates moon A. Again, you can pause this so you can download the information from his online shop. In case A, we have the two refractions opposite. So in this case, there is a full moon. Yeah, and then in case B, the refraction that creates the sun is getting in front of this, that creates the moon and hides the half of it. In this case, we have a half moon. Man, like, you know, he is Greek. He comes from Greece, but his English and his skills of presenting this information in basic English is fascinating. It's absolutely mind-blowing. So yeah, I'm really, I'm not saying like, don't come to me and say that I'm like, you know, like this is like the reality of things. I'm just saying that this type of thing resonates with intellectual capacity of the human brain. So I feel like more, I feel closer to this stuff than anything I've seen so far. Refraction angle and phases. So when the angle of incidence of the black sun below is big, and again, everything is about maths, because everything is math. The sun and the moon are very close. When they are at the same constellation, we have the new moon. In this case, the conical refraction of the sun completely neutralizes the moon's one. A angle of incidence, which is this one, new moon, and first quarter half moon. Full neutralization, and then just half neutralization. Makes sense. And everything is about the angle of the originator of the cosmic energy or the electromagnetic energy. As the angle of incidence is getting smaller, See the angle of incidence getting smaller because everything has to do with the refraction in the dome or the toroidal field. We have the first quarter of the moon, and in this case the sun's conical refraction hides the half of the moon's refraction from left. If we are northern, if we are northern, the moon's path of right, or right if we are southern, when the axis of moon's phases y is vertical to the horizon. I mean, you have to pause it for a minute and just consider the path that the electromagnetic waves are taking and the refraction where they're hitting the actual ceiling, and in that way you have the different phases of the moon and more or less neutralization from the sun. But it's actually easier to actually spot it on the diagram than it is to read the text, but you have to like keep it cool and read it several times like I did. When the angle of incidence is the smallest, we have the full moon, and in this case the two refractions are opposite and do not affect each other, which is C. Finally, when the angle of incidence is getting bigger, we have the third quarter, and in this case the sun's conical refraction hides the right half of the moon's refraction when the axis of phases is vertical to the horizon. When we are northern, the moon's path, or the left if we are southern. It's actually easier to actually check the diagram. Anyway, my idea was just to actually let you know that this exists, so you, in your free time you can actually sit down in your room quietly and understand the whole thing. It is kind of like, I mean, it's easy to understand. It's just you have to give it time. Axis of phases. These are actually exactly the axis of moon phases. Axis Y and X, considering the map. Join the two centers with a straight line and take a vertical line to the center of the Earth. And you have the axis. Same axis. Amazing stuff, right? Considering the properties of basic math. When you draw the lines, and then more with the axis of the moon, same axis. The axis of phases review, and phenomenon daylight. This is the phenomenon of daylight again with perspective. The perspective is very important as well on the plane. You've seen that before. Phenomenon daylight. The ionosphere in the upper portion. Okay, we'll see that again later afterwards. For now, we just like saw the interaction of Polaris with the dome and with the black sun's electromagnetic energy, and that was like something, you know, that blows you away in many ways. Gosh, this is like one of the best things I've seen so far in my whole trajectory as a YouTuber since I started investigating and seeing stuff and like opening my brain. So I will see you guys in the next video then. Take care. Okay, so this is a picture from Vibes of Cosmos Book 1, the digital format. I left the link to the online shop and his YouTube channel as well. He does a brilliant job. So what do we see here? I also love the actual quality of these pictures. It's absolutely genius, high definition. As you all know, this is Antarctica, right? This is Antarctica as we see it on the official world map, on the globe, which is a fake thing because the Earth is not a globe or anything. This Antarctica is not the real thing. This thing does not exist. This shape, this continent, does not exist. This is a representation, an artistic representation that they made so that we get that this is how Antarctica looks like. They cannot prove this. This is not provable. Nobody has proven this because you're not allowed to map it with a ship or with a plane. You're not allowed. Therefore, because it has not been proven, it is fake. Now, what's the shape of Antarctica actually? Because Antarctica, we have been led to believe it's a separate continent. It is not. That's why this guy has done a brilliant job. Let's see if I can actually put this on the whole page. These are, as it says here, many Antarcticas. Why? Because all these like stations, you see, the typical like military stations from different countries from the Antarctic Treaty, they're actually military bases on all the different continents that we have in the forbidden world. And the forbidden world is what we have. So for example, as you know, the moon is the Earth's mirror. It's a selfie of the Earth, but not just the Earth as we know it, because this is the Earth we know. So Africa, Europe and Russia with Asia, and then North America, South America, and Australia. This is Australia, and this is Lemuria actually. So this continent here, these like what you have like on the, let's say at the south of South America, this is South America here, at the south of South America, sorry, this is South America here, so this land here is South America. You have like the first two lands, which is like Terra Lacache and Terra Galega. which is connected to, in some way, or actually they're islands, they're close to Lemuria. So that's what we understand as Antarctica at the south of South America, the initial part of the continent of Lemuria, which is actually forbidden to go to because there's no ships and no boats. So as you all know, when you travel internationally and you take a plane or a boat, there's a specific path that plane or boat takes, and you're not allowed to go outside of that path. And if you actually want to go to a different place, you're not allowed. You see what I mean? So people don't actually realize that we live in a prison. We live in a prison. We are prisoners, and we're not allowed to go anywhere we like. And that's like one part of the bases. You see, the military bases like from China and Japan and Australia and some of the Russians and stuff, you have the name there. So let's see, for example, all these stations here, these like here, are what we call the Antarctica from South America. But then we have like a station from India here, for example, and from Belgium, Princess Elizabeth Station, Maitri Station, and Bharati Station. These are other lands. This is like a different Antarctica. It's not actually Antarctica, it's just different lands, different islands. It's fascinating. These are like at the south of South Africa. So because South Africa and Australia are not like you see on the official map, you know what I mean? This is like the picture of the Earth. So this is like the plasma moon, is that the moon is actually a reflection of the known world and the forbidden world, and what you see in white is water, and what you see in black in this case are the continents, and these are all the continents we are not allowed to explore. So as you can see, the big majority of the military bases are on the Lemuria continent, which is what we misunderstand as Antarctica, like this at the end of South America. But then there's also some bases here on these islands here and continents, and then some other bases here in Atlantis. Actually, in Atlantis, there's only one base, which is the Troll base from Norway, and then there's like one of Germany, and the Neumayer Station 3, which is on this continent, the Terra Vista, and then there's others like here from Finland and the UK and Argentina. Even Argentina has a station here. So there's only like Finland, Norway, and South Africa. They have military bases on what we call Atlantis, which is west from a western part of Africa. And then there's like one base of Germany lost here in this continent, and then 3 more bases, 2 of the UK and 1 from Argentina on this side of the continent. And then the other military bases are just on here, right? I'm actually quite amazed that the United States of America do not have bases on Atlantis and on the other continent beyond Atlantis and on these like islands here. It's quite interesting, right? They actually, the states, they're sticking to Lemuria, and Japan also, and even China sticks to Lemuria as well, and even Spain has one not in Lemuria, but like in the closest by. So this is fascinating stuff. This is like I know, it's one of those things that blows your mind away. So once you understand that the moon is actually a reflection of the Earth and not just our Earth, because our Earth, actually, where we're prisoners, they're just a bunch of small continents. Like, look at the size of South America and North America. They're so tiny and small compared to Africa and Eurasia. Even Lemuria and Atlantis are bigger than the Americas, and look at the size of this continent here, and the rest is just water. So that's why the whole thing with the moon landing, they never land on the moon, because the moon is not physical and nobody can prove it. That's why it's so awesome to say it, because nobody has proven that the moon is physical. Nobody has proven that Antarctica has this shape. It doesn't. This is just a graphical representation that anybody can do, and they did that on the official maps that we have in schools. And that's the mind-blowing thing. This is the according to the information, this is the most logical information I've seen so far. So we have the continents, which are very close, but even though they're very close to the continents where we live, very close still means several hundreds of kilometers or thousands of kilometers. Like, the closest I've seen so far is 700 kilometers, which is from the coast of West Africa all the way to Poseidonia, which is part of Atlantis. So of course, if a ship or a boat doesn't sail in that direction and only goes close to the coast, if you're on a ship, and that's why they made this whole thing, you know, in the 19th century, the whole travel was based on ships. That's why now it's based on airplanes, because who decides where an airplane goes? You don't decide. Even if you take like a private plane, the pilot will not agree to fly you in a straight line from West Africa all across the ocean. It will not agree to do so. you can try. Nobody's gonna agree. They were just gonna take you by the coastline, and you're gonna go to a different place. For example, in America, if you want to go from America in a straight line, you would just end up going to somewhere in a distant continent, all across the ocean. Like for example, from North America like this, you would not even go to get close to this continent. So, but nobody does that. Like even if you fly from America, you would just fly like this, like close to the coast. And even if you would go, like for example, if you pass to the Caribbean, you would just go to you would never touch Lemuria. You would just like go close to Lemuria, but close is still several thousands of kilometers. That's awesome. Let's see this map from a different perspective, like rotated. So that's North America here, North America, South America, and this is like the point of South America where you would say that's what they call Antarctica. Look at this. So this is what they actually call the first islands to say so. I'm not sure if it's this island or like these islands. That's what they call Antarctica when they do the cruise ships, the cruises with the ships. But nobody goes to Terra Lakash or Lakach and Terra Galega, which is part of Lemuria, and that's where all the main bases, military bases are. That's fascinating stuff. So we have here like this is China and India, and of course nobody's gonna go to Lemuria as well. And then Australia, everybody goes like from here to Australia, but nobody would go here. That's awesome. Let's switch it like that. Let's change it like this. Sorry, on the other side. So we have Australia here, and then look at all these like islands here, which actually continue. So the moon only shows us what's actually possible to show physically. Even so, we actually have more than we are supposed to know, to be honest. So there's like all this here. So that's why they always say like, oh, the moon always has the same face. You never see the other face of the moon, even though they say, oh, the moon spins, because it doesn't spin. We see the same face because the moon is a reflection. I'm also very amazed by these lands here, which are like India and Belgium have stations here, and I'm just wondering what these names would be of these continents. And then definitely let's switch back to Atlantis. This is Atlantis. Atlantis is very close to, actually, like I said, like the Atlantic. We have the Atlantic, but the Atlantic is huge, and nobody actually goes in a straight line on the Atlantic. No one. Like nobody goes in a straight line. The same way nobody goes in a straight line on the Pacific. If you go on the Pacific in a straight line from America like that, you would get to Lemuria, but nobody goes in a straight line because you would get to the continent of Lemuria. If you go in a straight line from Africa, you would get to the continent of Atlantis, which is actually divided into Amazonia, which is actually the closest coast to Africa, and then Poseidonia, and then you have South Atlas and North Atlas and Chronostate, Titan, As, and Cyclops, like in the names of ancient Greece. That's why the ancient Greeks would say it's in the Atlantic Ocean. And then we have these stations here, which again, we don't know who these are. We don't have a name. It's like just Terra del Vista. Terra del Vista means the earth of the view in Spanish. It's actually quite curious why the name is in Spanish, Terra del Vista. And yeah, let's see the military bases. So if you check the military bases here, they're the same. So Concordia, Vostok, Mimi. That's why. So you have like the Japanese, the Australians, the Russians, the Chinese, just like here in the same way. And then you have UK, and after UK you have Argentina, and then South Korea, Spain, America. So UK, Argentina, South Korea, Spain, America. And then you have here, you see the separation. They made this separation so like the big majority of the bases are here, which is like what we see on this side. So all this side where the mouse is moving, but then this side here with Norway and America, and was Germany. It's supposed to be a Germany here as well. Germany is here, Neumayer station. So again, the interpretation on this map is not useful. The useful thing is this on the reflection. So these would be like, you know, afterwards the UK, Sydney station, Belgrano station 2, Haley stations 1 to 6. Well, man, I have like 6 stations here, the British. So it's interesting, right? These are the countries that actually know the truth, and there are several governments. I'm actually quite surprised that Germany only has one. So I guess this is the official Germany, but then we're just going to have to ask, where did the actual Germans go? The Germans from like my videos I've done like so far with Antarctica, with, you know, when Admiral Byrd was there. So according to Admiral Byrd, I guess he was referring to Lemuria as being the next continent because Lemuria is bigger than the United States. Definitely, the United States is part of North America, and it's very tiny compared to Lemuria. So I'm guessing this is the continent, or is it this one? Is this the continent? And if these guys have stations here, I'm just wondering if the Germans who went on this side, they actually allowed them to have stations here. So I don't know, like, if you follow me, and Vibes of Cosmos is a very good thing. This is only for like people who are open-minded. Now, I do find this more open-minded than the big majority of the stuff we see on other channels. I mean, this is not something that you would go saying, oh my gosh, this is too much for me. This is actually the logical thing. I mean, when I saw this, I said to myself, finally, the logical, intellectual, and scientific thing. And that's why we only always see one face of the moon. It's the same face every day, every night, over and over again. We never see something else on the moon, because the moon is the reflection. It's plasma, and it's just fascinating stuff. So I'm hoping you understand. Like, again, if you have the links down below, you can buy this for very cheap, so you have it in your own home and you can study it yourself on your computer. You don't need a physical book. You can actually do it digitally and online. And this has to be, as of now, the biggest, most amazing stuff I found so far, thanks to Vibes of Cosmos, in terms of the truth of the earth, of the world, of everything. And imagine the amount of continents beyond. Look at this. There's so many islands here. So imagine, like, if they would allow us, if they have technology to actually get a bigger size of the plane and put that on the sky. Remember, back in the days, in the ancient days, they said there were 3 moons on the sky, which means that those other 2 moons could be reflections of other Earths on this plane. I'm using Sanskrit as well, because Sanskrit does a very good job by portraying all that. This is amazing. So we're just gonna cover more of this. I'm hoping that you kind of understood the message. It's kind of actually hard to explain, because it's the first time I'm actually trying to explain this, and there's limited vocabulary, because people usually are stuck with the official maps of Antarctica and the official maps we see in schools with the Mercator map, and the flat earth communities out there. I know some of them are well intentioned, but some of them actually they don't know how to explain things, and they get people even more lost than they should. So not all flat earth communities are good communities, and not all of them are going to accept this, because many of them they like to be indoctrinated as well. So in my opinion, you have to be really open-minded, and this is definitely something so logical and so scientific. It vibrates with the intellect of the human being, and it also works very well with all the myths and the legends, and the thing with the Germans and Antarctica, Atlantis, Lemuria, the flight paths and the ship paths in the world, why we have an Antarctic treaty, why it is forbidden to go and explore the world as we want to, because we're not allowed. If you try yourself and you try as an individual to explore the world, there's limitations. That's why there's limitations, because you're not only allowed to know of the existence of the continents that you already know of. So these continents: South America, North America, Eurasia, Africa, and Australia, and New Zealand. And that's it. So I will see you guys in the next video. So this is from the second book of Vibes of Cosmos. I have the link down below to his online shop and YouTube channel. I actually recommend you, if you have money on your debit card or like PayPal, you should buy this stuff. It's really awesome. And yeah, where is Atlantis? This is the location of Atlantis on the plasma moon map, which is being the moon, the natural map of the world. And let's see also the location of, well, the continents. So first, I want to show you Lemuria. That's Lemuria on the map. Lemuria is there. And then we have Atlantis there. And now let's see in a close-up, a zoom in. So according to the plasma moon map that shows on Vibes of Cosmos, you have West Africa, or Africa as a continent, and then west of Africa, closest distances to hidden lands. Atlantis is west from West Africa in South Atlantic Ocean, southern from the Sea of Sargasso. Cape Verde, Verde means green, is the closest place to Amazonia, the eastern place of Atlantis. And why do you think Cape Verde, Verde means green, and it's the closest place to Amazonia? And this Amazonia probably is a jungle, just like the jungle in South America. So probably Cape Verde, Cape Green, Cabo Green, Cabo Verde is was at some point in time was connected to the land of Amazonia. That's why it has the name of green, right? So that's the location from the poor countries in Africa, Mauritania, Mali, and Liberia. And that's the Sea of Sargasso, South Atlantic Ocean. And you have Amazonia, which is the closest bit of Atlantis to West Africa. And let's do a close-up. And what's the distance? So you have Africa and Poseidonia to Amazonia, Cape Verde, and that's from Cape Verde, which is what you're actually allowed to see in this known world, to Amazonia, Atlantis, distance 700 kilometers west-south. So you tell me if somebody is actually capable of actually getting a ship or a plane from Cape Verde and travel 700 kilometers across the ocean, because it's water here, right, all the way to Amazonia. Is there anybody capable of this? I'm still ignorant. So I'm not a ship captain. I'm not a pilot. Does anybody have the power, the finances, the resources to go from Cape Verde and to keep on going straight on a straight line 700 kilometers? Are there any flight paths, like official flight paths, official airplanes or official ships that go that way? According to what I've seen so far on the official map, no. You see how easy it is to actually confine us to the prison continents that we live on, and we have places so close to us. But what does close mean? 700 kilometers. So 700 kilometers is the closest, but Cape Verde is a place that where nobody goes, nobody lives there. And you know, it's not like having something close to the USA or to UK or something, or Australia. So that's sad. Even though it looks so close, it's so distant. Let's see also the closest places from the continent to the islands, because Southwest Africa, which is the place where Gabon, Angola, and Namibia are, is the closest place to Terra Vista Islands that there are south and east from Atlantis. So there's some islands which are close to the main continent called Terra Vista. And doing a zoom, the two closest distances are from Angola, the country in Africa, to this island, which we call Island A, according to the Book of Vibes of Cosmos. And the distance is 2,500 kilometers to both ways. So going from Angola and Namibia to one of these two islands, Island A and B, which are the closest lands to the main continent of Terra Vista, 2,500 kilometers. 2,500 kilometers, that's a lot of distance, you know. So who is going to take you in a straight line from West Africa to go on the ocean and just get to those places? No one. I know of no one, no ships and no planes who go there. So when people ask you, oh, how can you actually be so conspiracy theorists like and say that there's hidden lands? Well, you tell me, because nobody can prove that they actually go on a straight line on the ocean with a plane and a ship and to go that way to see those continents. So let's check now the other side of the world, which is South America, is the closest place to Terra del Fuego, Terra Lakash, and Terra Galeca. These lands, as you can see here, so that's South America. And the lands, these lands are in South Pacific, south and west from southwest Argentina. And we have a close-up, we have South America there with Argentina and Chile, and Terra del Fuego, Terra Lakash, and Terra Galeca, which connect to Lemuria. I don't know if they're connected or if it's only ocean, because some pictures show land and some pictures show water between them. From Argentina to Terra del Fuego, to the real Terra del Fuego, because Ushuaia is not the real Terra del Fuego. Probably Ushuaia was at some point connected to the mainland, the main island. It's 1,700 kilometers west from Argentina. So are there any flights and ships that go in a straight line from the southernmost point of Argentina or Chile, or like the southwestern point going west? I don't know of any. So that's the closest you can go. And then of course you have Lemuria. We can't just we have to speak about Lemuria as well. So Lemuria is in South Pacific Ocean, south from Eastern Asia, and northeast from Northeast New Zealand. So you have South Korea, Seoul, and Japan, and Taiwan, very extremely close even there, and Hong Kong. So you can actually go. But does anyone go on the Pacific Ocean in a straight line from these places, from Korea and Taiwan, in a straight line? No. There's no planes, no ships. You see, we are not allowed to explore the oceans of our world. And the closest is also New Zealand. So you can go from Asia or you can go from New Zealand, Gisborne, Wellington. And the distance here, awesome stuff. Again, this distance from Taiwan is the closest land to Lemuria, 700 kilometers, just the way that West Africa or Cape Verde is to Amazonia and Atlantis. And here, for example, it's 500 kilometers. So record, right? 200 kilometers less if you want to go from New Zealand to Lemuria northeast, 500 kilometers. So even that distance is a huge distance. It's not huge for a plane, or a ship, but are there any planes or ships that travel on the curved water of the globe? You get my comedy, right? No, there's none. So we're not allowed to explore, even though we have places so close to us, not allowed to go there. So it is sad, really sad. If this information is true, and if the map of the moon is actually showing us the reality of the world we live in, those are the distances to the closest places, the closest hidden places, and none of us is allowed to actually just take a plane or a ship and just go freely, right? Because if the Earth is a globe spinning in space with curved water, we should be free to explore it, because we are confined to spin in space for the rest of our lives, right? And then we're going to colonize Mars because, we have no resources. Now you can actually understand what colonizing other planets means, going to other continents where there's resources. And it's sad. It is sad. Now you can understand why we have a Antarctic treaty, why we have a military that does not allow you to go freely on the oceans. There's international waters, and there's rules and laws, and there's military. And if you go with your own boat and stuff, you can get arrested on the sea. Why would you get arrested in the middle of the ocean? Does it make sense to you now? That's why you would get arrested, because you're not allowed to go to other continents. And people think that these continents are just like savage continents, that there's just like nature and that's it. How do you know? What if like those continents actually have civilization, like skyscraper buildings and like the same? What if those continents have the same kind of civilization as the United States of America or Russia or like Japan, buildings and powerful people and stuff? So they have their own nationality, right? And they would have like their own politics, which means that it would be the same as when somebody wants to go to for example, if you want to go from a certain country to a different country, you need a visa, right? You need a visa. You can't just go freely. Well, the same here. You will need a visa. Therefore, they have military, and you're not allowed to go because you are part of a different nation, a different nationality, a different political environment. Simple as that. So, and unless they come to us, maybe they're actually the guys who actually control the known world, the civilizations from Lemuria and Atlantis and Terra Vista could be people who control the politics and the economy and the military as well. So fascinating stuff, and this makes you feel even more like a prisoner. So now you also understand why we are just birth certificates with a number, and we don't have any rights, because according to the laws, there's no such thing as like, when you're born, you have like a birth certificate, and there's all the movies and the laws. We have natural birth, but nobody respects our natural laws. They're not respectable. They are at some point respectable if you get to higher rankings and you go to the United Nations, but who's going to actually, a common mortal being, who's going to be able to actually be in front of the judges of the United Nations and win something for you? Like for this, maybe you're just gonna get terminated along the way. So what I mean. Anyway, I will see you guys in the next video.